Yo, 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 what's going on? Another episode of, podcast. You know, welcome. You know, uh, yeah, man, appreciate the folks that's going to tune in. We'll tune in. Podcast, where we talk about Black culture, Black experience, and we talk about in a positive, manner. You know what I'm saying? One of those things that we're going to talk about today is has to do with estate planning. This is one of those things where we were talking about it earlier in the week. You know what I'm saying? And we've been through some life experiences, to where, you know, um, uh, to where I'm gonna say this, man. I don't think that as Black people, one of the things that we're afraid to talk about is death, right? And what happens after that, right? What do we leave behind? You know what I'm saying? What is it that what is it that we have built and then we want to pass on? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we're going through some life experiences, you know what I'm saying, to where, certain things were built, but they're not directly passed on. So then it's left up to the state, you know what I'm saying, to to pass those on. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're just subjected to some state laws that you know uh, might not be beneficial to you. But what's going on, bro?
Man, nothing much, man. Nothing much, man. Like you said, we just out here and realizing the assignment that our ancestors had gave us, and we're just trying to stay on path, man.
Yeah, yeah. That's it, man. And one of those things like the path to stay on is that you know, we are the data shows that Black people we're slowly moving up the economic ladder. We're owning things. We're actually owning things. We're having life insurance. Folks are investing in real estate. Have some sort of savings account. You know what I'm saying, and things of that and things of that nature. Um, but um, but still, I think that a lot of the discussions that happen around this is not about uh, 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 what do you do? What do you do with all of that, right? How what's because people need to understand something. One thing that this country understands is legalese. You know what I mean? And that means is that this country understands laws. We are a country of laws. I know people hear that refrain often, but what it means is that the things are written down that have to be respected. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, this country don't respect humanity sometimes, but this country most definitely respect the laws that are written. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why, folks like Dr. Martin Luther King wanted humanity written to the laws. You know what I'm saying? Because this country most definitely respect that. But what we're talking about today is just, those things that happen, after death. You know what I'm saying? I know one of those things for me personally, you know what I mean? That I, told my kids and like, yo, don't have no, it's gonna be written down or video somewhere. You know what I mean? To say, hey, don't put me in no casket or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Don't spend no money on that. And we've had that experience, you know what I'm saying, to understand that, it's not that to say that the expenses that come with it. People don't think about that, you know what I'm saying? And that people it's another way for people to go in debt, really. and passing on that debt to your loved ones. And you don't want to pass on debt to your loved ones. You want to pass on wealth to your loved ones. You know what I'm saying? And so, JY went through an experience of, you know, excuse me, of planning, you know, for, uh, your children and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's what we're gonna talk about today. Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah. So again, it's about setting up the instructions, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it's two different ways that we found out that you can set up the instructions. You can set up the instructions, um, living, and plus after death. So a lot of people hear about wills, and primarily, and the things about wills are they're good to have, right? But um, you know, setting up a will only just set up just the instructions, and it doesn't have a economic part attached to it.
Hmm.
Besides on just the transferring of that wealth.
Hmm.
So with with transferring of that wealth, which is good, the difference is when you're setting up an estate, what we found out is you can build upon that wealth even after your death. So this is the key part that we want our kids to be able to utilize, right? We want them to be able to say, a tool that we found out. Instead of being going to the bank, they can actually borrow from the estate to purchase a home.
Oh, wow.
So now you're changing the interest rates. You're doing all of these different things and tools that will then set up more wealth. But but you have to sit down and talk to your kids again, setting up the instructions within the estate so they do not exhaust the estate.
Yeah.
So you want your kids to also think about expanding that estate and then also setting up their own estate. And then you're creating umbrella estates.
Hmm.
And this is pretty much how the wealthy has been operating since estates have been, you know, has been around.
Hmm.
Um and we're getting to a place especially in black culture where we are learning these tools,
Hmm.
and um it's sort of why we're starting to see the dynamics change economically,
Hmm.
is because we're understanding the simple tools and the differences between wills and trust, and then not allowing our properties to go into probate, which we experienced that personally, that we're going through as of now, um, where yeah, you don't want the state to be able to control that, because if you're allowing the state to control it, there is another benefactor on the other end that it just won't be equal
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to the
yeah,
children.
yeah.
That's the simplest way I can really put it. Um, but yeah, we can dive into some points, man, as the conversation build.
Yeah, 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 man. And that's one thing that's interesting because like in the military we talked about we're always pushed to put, for wills, do wills, man. And man, somebody at my job made a great point, and they made a great point in that so through the 20 years that you're in the military, you have to pay into what's called a SGLI, right? Um but you pay into the SGLI, and then after your 20 years is done, it just goes away. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? Whereas versus if I would have been able to if I would have been allowed to purchase my own life insurance, I could then borrow from that life insurance to pay
mhm,
for my kids' college because I have 20 years of paying into that life insurance. It really is a man, it really is man, it's a scam, man, in the military, man. I feel sorry. You know what I'm saying? So what you have to do in the military, you have to pay into SGLI and also get your own separate insurance. You know what I'm saying? But the SGLI is so expensive. It is expensive. You know what I'm saying? That you just don't have any other money left over to pay
Mm,
for separate insurance. So a lot of military folks don't have that. You know what I'm saying? And so we're told to go get a will. Go get a will, go get a will,
mhm,
go get a will. And what wills do, all wills do is say, this is how I want to be, and when it comes time for people to make decisions, I don't want to be a vegetable or you want to be a vegetable. You know
mhm,
what I mean? Basically, turn life, right? Don't want to pull the plug or pull the plug. And again, we were in that situation where, with our mom, we had to make that decision because there was no will left. There was nothing left, so we had to make that decision.
mhm,
Um, that end of life decision. How money gets, how your insurances or whatever you own, how that gets split up. You know what I mean? Um, but like you're saying, with trusts build wealth. You know what I'm saying? It builds, over time because you can establish rules. Correct?
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So establishing those rules, like some of the rules that we personally set up was the age limit
Hmm.
for our children.
Hmm.
Um, History and study shows that after 3 to 5 years, the next generation that receive wealth, uh, so, then inheritees literally lose the money
Mm.
in 3 to 5 years. It's gone.
Wow.
So all of your previous work of 30, 40 years, 50 years have just went down the drain in 3 to 5 years.
Mm.
So you can set up guidelines within your state. You can do it in a will. Well, you can say it in a will, but there's no structure that will hold that in place besides your word.
Right.
Because an estate, you can have someone over that estate to be make sure that it's functioning properly, whether it's a outside entity or firm that does it, or you can designate someone who you think that's responsible.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 and I think that's an important distinction, you know what I'm saying? Um, because the whole point, and just correct me here, so the whole point of a trust is to say, um, "Hey, I have these things that we own," you know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? And so we want these things and they're valuable. We
mhm.
want these things to continue to have value, you know?
So
Um
so so it's a so your children can still dissolve like a business, right?
Mhm.
Within the trust, or sell it off. They can make that decision.
Mm.
Um, so the real difference is in a will, you can pass on that business onto your children. But again, it's tax implications to that transfer. That's one aspect of it, which means they will have to pay taxes on what they got from the business. Um, and then two, the other difference is if they do that, again, you're talking about dissolving of the trust.
Mhm.
So then you can also set up the instructions for them to keep it running.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, and I think that again, man, yeah, man, these are when people talk about like you know, generational curses and all this other stuff, you know what I'm saying? I think that this is information that, our generations in the past didn't have.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
know what I'm saying? Whether they went and sought the information, I think that because we are now in an informational age, we are more aware of these things, especially finances, man. Economics, man. Economics. You should be making political decisions. Um Yeah, brother Kaylee doing the will. Yeah, it wasn't as tough as you thought. After doing the research, yeah, a
Mhm.
will is not tough at all, man. And I'm gonna tell you, man, like, look, and I'm gonna tell you about why it's important, why having a will, right, is because one of the most difficult things you don't want to leave to you when you are at that point to where you are about to pass. Your children are already grieving, man.
Mhm.
You don't want to add stress onto their life, man, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, if you leave a will or a trust to say like, "Hey, man," you probably should have both, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, to say that, "Hey, man, this is what to do when I pass," you know what I mean? Or if I get that close, because it is a stressful time for those folks that's left behind, you know what I'm saying? And to put that on, to put that on them, um, um is irresponsible, you know what I'm saying? Especially in today's age, we have a lot of information, you know what I'm saying? And for us it was very like a very stressful time, you know what I'm saying? We lost our mom at a very young age. She was only 58.
Mhm.
We had no instructions. We're sitting here trying to, we were trying to scramble, a lot of things going on during that time, man, trying to make decisions at that time. And we just had to make a very tough decision. And so, I think that as parent, if you are a parent with a child, you need to go ahead and make that decision for your children. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, here's
I would say not for your children, for yourself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Great point.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, why would I wanna lay that burden on someone else?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? Because I think that's the point that you're kinda laying out, but
mhm.
it's not on them or their decision to say if I want to move on when I'm not capable to actually function in life without support.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I do have to say, when you set up a trust, you don't need a will.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know that. So within the trust, you can set up instructions for end of life.
Correct,
End of
correct.
life.
You can
Okay.
set up the instructions. What do you want people, what they
Mhm,
what do you want to do with your body? You know,
mhm.
do you want to be resuscitated or not? Or like
Yeah.
all of those instructions will go in. And on top of that, with a trust, you'll fill out some forms that basically would literally go out to uh if anything happened to someone,
Mhm.
you can literally print out a form as soon as they're in the hospital. Here you go. This is a part of his trust. A
Yeah.
will is a little bit different
Mhm.
in that standpoint, because again you're talking about presenting your instructions, but not realizing there's another entity in the room, which is the state.
Right, 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 right. And probate. And so that's a point. That's an important point that I think we need to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
About going to probate. Again, you're adding another stressful, event to your family that's trying to grieve and trying to, you know what I mean, trying to process, losing a loved one, man. And I'm gonna be honest, man, going through probate, man, again, is another life experience that we're going through. It's not a good thing, man. It's not I basically go ahead and make that decision, because when you leave it up to the state, again, the state has laws, and those laws are generally cause problems in families. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So a lot of times, man, families get in argument. I see why families get in arguments over probate. I honestly do now. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because you are subjected to the laws. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And there's really nothing you can do about it. So not only are you subjected to the laws, but now you could put your loved ones in a situation where they have to now come out of pocket for lawyers, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? or the probate process can be long. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, 9 something years and things of that nature. So, you know, so it, yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, and you can also legally contest a will.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
you can't legally attest a trust. You can try, but most likely you will lose that case.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it is almost rare that that happens, but it's
Mm.
not rare for people to sue on the basis of a will.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Kaylee was pointing out, like, yeah, man, we felt liberated. We felt liberated after,
We
like, we had all of our instructions taken care of. We
Mhm,
had everything kind of laid out,
mhm.
and like we felt like a weight was lifted off of our shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah. And man, like the sister in love saying, man, it's just, it is grown people shit, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
for real. Like for real, man. Like it is grown people shit. Take care. You know what I'm saying? Like, we like when you are preparing when you are preparing, like, look, man, death and taxes. Those are the
Mhm.
guarantees in life, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't be afraid or run from that, man. You know what I'm saying? It would be very selfish to not have, something in place, right? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I gotta go find my will. Now I actually gotta redo my will. So, you know what I mean? So God, don't let nothing, no, I'm saying.
Yeah.
But no, 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 like, for real, like, I am going to make sure my will's up to date. I try to make sure it's up to date, you know what I'm saying? Being in the military, man, um, being in the military, man, that's something that you had to do because you never know when you were gonna get put in harm's way.
Right.
But I think we don't think beyond, like, "Hey, man, I'm getting older or a certain age, let me put things," we just, like, within the Black community, we're like, I don't
We
know,
think it's
man."
always the tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, man, this belief that, yeah, man, that is always tomorrow, and tomorrow's never promised, man. Tomorrow's never promised, so, you shouldn't put your loved ones in that position.
I know the missus, she don't she really don't like when I say it. Why
Mhm.
pray when I can plan? You know what I'm saying? And like that's my motto. And like,
Yeah.
why pray when I can plan?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because again, I'm removing the fantasy
Mhm.
out of life,
Yeah,
where I cannot leave my planning or things that I need to take care of to someone that is invisible to me,
right, yeah,
because
exactly,
I have duties. I have things that I need to do.
right.
It's no knock to people that do that. Pray.
Mhm,
Do whatever you need to do to deal
mhm,
with the stress of life. Do that.
mhm.
But you have to understand is you have to plan.
Yeah,
Everything that you do in life, you have to have a plan.
up to your death, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to plan it, man, and again, man, I'm sorry. Just going through this process, you know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, do both, man.
Hey, I'm
Mhm.
not in that ballpark to tell people that,
Yeah,
what I'm saying,
yeah,
like, you because you may be atheist. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
so at the end of the day, the point is it's not about religion. It's not about none of those things. It's the point about plan, plan, plan. While you are on earth, have a plan.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 man. I think that's and the reason why, I can understand that comment on doing both, you know what I mean? Because one of those things I've always believed in is that, people, what's the saying, in prayer without works is dead, right?
Yeah.
People forget that, you know what I'm saying, that, if you pray, that doesn't mean you step back and do nothing.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
you have to do something, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Within the Black community, and people like, "Oh man, I prayed for this job." Okay, did you put in a resume? Was your resume good?
Mhm,
Did you
mhm.
make sure everything that you know what I'm saying, that you prayed for, that you gave it, you gave it as much power as possible, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So Imma plan and then Imma pray.
Yeah, yeah, however
You
folk do
you
it.
feel me? Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
that like that that
yeah.
that's what we've really gotta get to as a culture instead of trying to pray, and then when something happens and then
I
not
wanna
realizing
plan.
the action. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
No, you
yeah, and I think
plan
that's
and
that's
then you
what that's
pray, you
yeah,
know?
and I think
So
that's why it's
I
important.
get the comment, but, I just didn't want it to be misinterpreted,
No, 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 no.
what the objectives were because we have these situations, in our culture that leads us to this place, um, of not obtaining these informations because we rely heavily on one or the other.
Right,
And
right, right.
this is what we're trying to address and what we're trying to talk about, um, here, especially on this platform, is trying to tie in the historical aspect that we talk about, the things that
Mhm,
happen through our culture, the things that our ancestors have worked through to get us
mhm,
to this point to be
mhm.
able to access these kind of things, to accomplish these kind of things for our children.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's about information, right? We gotta press on this information, man. And again, part of that information is always why information also requires language, right? So
Mhm,
we have to deconstruct. We not deconstruct. We have to construct language that says that, hey, man, hey, you got a plan. Your wills, trusts. You know what I
mhm,
mean, and things of that nature. And we have to tell our children also, and give them the financial and also backing so that they can have the same thing, what I mean, that provide, right? And it's part of why, like I say all the time, man, like, like black people need to get away from saying generational curses. We say generational trauma. The reason that a lot of black people didn't have life insurance was because the system took advantage of black people. What people would go and try to sell life insurance to black people, and they would basically take their money. That's what they would
mhm,
do. So
mhm,
there was no return, when these folks passed away and people are like, oh, trying to go get money from for their loved ones. And then once they go to these life insurance places, and they're like, one that exists that I'm a part of right now, Pacific Life. That so they would go and they'd be like, "Hey man, my loved one passed away," and they're like, "Yeah, you can't get no money. We ain't got no money for you because you're black." That's really what it comes down to. You have to go back, you have to, for the sake of time, because, I could really explain it,
No,
but
again, you talking about exactly what we're getting into on why we do the platform the way that we do. The
mhm,
historical context was just that. And to
mhm,
think that those people did not pray, they did not, what I'm saying? Like
mhm,
they didn't have a plan, they didn't do anything.
mhm.
No, they did.
They did. They
They
they they
did.
did. They got taken advantage of,
And it
man.
did not work out. So we have to sit back and understand the sayings are great. They are great.
Mhm,
But there is a reality to all of those things when you come into putting things together. Because regardless of us praying, planning, you still have to be diligent to
right.
understanding what's going on and making sure that your estates are up to date. And if you choose to get a will, you make sure that your will is constantly up to date and those kind of things. You may want to say, okay, every 3 years, I'm a look over my will again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Oh, every 5 years, I'm gonna look at my trust again. And those are the ways that we have to start rethinking how we
Mhm,
process life and information and things. It is a total readjustment of
mhm,
of of how we as black people are trying to learn to operate in a system that was never built for us
mm.
to be in the position that we are in.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think that's a key point. Like a lot of these things are set up, were not set up for black people to, people wonder why black people did not gain wealth is because it took advantage of black people.
Yes.
And so there's a great book called The Color of Money, and it talks about this. It talks about how black people did apply for insurance.
Mhm.
They did do trusts and wills and things of that nature, but the folks on the other end, once they passed, did not honor them. You know what I'm saying? We're in a different, space today where those things can be honored. So, what I mean, and there's not the advantages because there was other laws that were created,
Mhm.
so that people wouldn't be taken advantage of for their money. So over time, by the time you hit the 1930s, I'm sorry, by the time you hit the 1950s, black people didn't put their money in banks, and black people didn't put their money in life insurance. That's what happened because they were taken advantage of. What I mean? That and you
We
know
lost trust.
yeah, right, exactly. They became cynical in the
Mhm.
system, and then they're like, "Yeah, we lost." They lost trust in the system, and they're like, "Yeah, man, we'll just let our families figure it out." You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Afterwards, and that's really what happened. Again, a great book that talks about this is The Color of Money. Folks should read that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. With the state, the things that you can establish in the state, you want to place all of your assets inside of that estate. Insurance, life insurances, um, businesses, um, properties, all anything that is a asset, even
mm,
even your car.
mhm,
It's not really an asset, but at the end of the day, it is a asset on a standpoint that it can generate money
right, 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 right.
if it's sold.
Mm,
Um, these are the things on how we have to start looking at things. These are ways that we have to really start trying to move forward. Um, and it also give us political power,
mhm,
right? But we haven't got to that point yet. So
yeah,
that's a different story. But this is why we're talking about the estate planning, because it's a next phase to something else.
yeah,
And we have to be able to start planning out for our children, then our children plan out for our grandchildren, so on and so on. Because again, in the situation that we're in, my grandchildren will be fine.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah,
So now it's about working on trying to make my great grands fine.
right.
And this is why, you can't set those tools up in a will.
Mm,
Um, which again, a trust is about building up assets.
mm.
A will is just instructions to pass out assets.
Oh, okay. I mean, shoot, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense, man. Speaking of shoot, I gotta call my life insurance because I gotta make some changes to that. But the because right now, the way my life insurance is set up, it pays off the house, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But yeah, but now I need to rethink that. You know what I'm saying?
So so if that happens, right, and you have a will and you pass that on to your children, they have a tax implication. They
Yeah,
now
that's
have to pay taxes, the wealth tax, and that wealth tax can go up to almost 30%.
yeah, yeah,
So again, when you set up a trust, they don't have that tax implication.
right. And that's what a lot of people don't understand when people are like, "Oh, buy land, buy land, buy land." Yeah, that's fine, but if you don't, like you're saying, if you don't put it in a trust, uh, and that's where it goes back to what you were saying, where that wealth is lost within a generation, or two
Mhm.
or three, because eventually there's going to be a generation that's going to be like, yeah, I'm not paying them taxes. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We seen that, in our own family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um, you know, yeah. Yeah, so it's best to set up one of those things, and I find it very most definitely is uh setting up a trust is better than wills, you know what I'm saying? I'm
yeah,
yeah, man, I wish I would have spent like being 20 years in the military. Like,
mm,
hold up, man, what's the, you know what I mean? Like, how much money I put into that junk, man?
yeah,
Man, it's gone. It's gone. It's
yeah,
gone. Because once
yeah,
I got out, well, now they asking me to set up another version of a life insurance. I'm like, I paid 20 years into this
wow,
life insurance. I should not have to pay. Yeah, so you have to set up. So in the military, you set up a SGLI life insurance. When you
mhm,
get out, that ends, and then they ask you to start paying for a VGLI, Veterans Life Insurance, right? And I'm
mm,
like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, but I was paying. You forced me to pay for 23 years.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? At that point, how, and that's one thing I learned about life insurance was like, and why it's good. And what most people don't know, you can get your life insurance. You can, if you have a child or a grandchild, you can get a life insurance on them. So when they turn 18 or 20 years old, they can begin to borrow against that life insurance and maybe, use it to go to college, or, or go to, or purchase a home or something. It's called life insurance. You know what I'm saying? So you can pull from it. And it's not, some life insurance aren't set up, for after your, depending on how you set it up, right? It's
mhm.
not for after your death, is for while you're living. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I'm like, man, we, like, the military could have done so much better, man. Maybe I need to write a letter to my congressman. Like, yo,
That's what I was going to say. Like, that sounds like it needed
yeah,
legislative change.
legislation change.
Because it sounds like people in the military are being took advantage of for profit.
Yeah. Hmm.
But you just touched on a point. Um, oh man, I just lost my train of thought. But you just touched on a point talking about. Can't remember the statement that you ended with. Dang it. Yeah.
Oh, my
I
bad. Oh, I
there
was
we
talking about, maybe I have, but like the life insurance with veterans life insurance and versus the regular service life insurance.
go. Oh, you were talking about the living aspect of life insurance.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
So again, these are the things that we are really diving into, right? Because there is a living aspect to life insurance. There's a living aspect to also trust.
Hmm.
And like I got in there and I'm speaking to, you know, the trust planner attorney, and you know the missus, she's asking about the death stuff, and I'm like, man, I want to know how can I make my this estate make money while I'm living.
Yeah.
I want to be able to generate and use money while I'm living. He said,
Mhm.
Mr. Young, you're getting a little ahead of yourself, but but we're going to get to that point. So
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things that's different from a will than a trust. Um, what you're talking about benefits, and I know everybody's not business savvy or business, but
Mhm.
you don't need to have just a business to be able to do a lot of these things.
Mhm.
Um, and and we're getting to a territory where a lot of people want to have rental properties and those
Mhm.
kind of things. Those are reasons why you would put it in a trust,
Mhm.
rather than keeping it in a will. Um,
Mhm.
and again, tax implications.
Yeah.
It's about
It's
figuring out how to use taxes properly.
it's the taxes, man. The
Yes.
taxes in this country run everything, man. That's just what it is, man. In the Trump part of the Trump tax cuts was basically a law that said that I can't remember what it's called, but basically before whenever a wealthy person died and passed along $20 million, the heirs had to pay a certain amount of tax. Well, that tax is gone now. They don't have to pay.
Mhm.
They don't have to pay the tax anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's in the law. You know what I'm saying? But that's how wealthy people have. You know what I'm saying? People don't understand, man. Like this country was built on the fact on wealthy white men using the law as agreeing to how they were going to conduct themselves, in business adventures. You know what I'm saying? That
And
that's
shield their money.
Yes, and shield the money, man. And shield the money. You know what I'm saying? Taxes run this country, man. So a lot of people don't understand the reason that we're in. We're in this time to where there's a housing crisis, right? There's a housing crisis. There's not enough houses being built. Well, the government should then come in and build more houses. That's what should happen. You know what I'm saying? In order to have more affordable homes, but just so that so that you don't have all these rental properties and that are popping up. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is that you had the tax cuts of the Trump tax cuts, which created and still creating more a trickle up effect where the wealthy people in this country actually keep their money outside of the United States of America and outside of the government. So their money is not circulating within the federal or state government in order to use that money or use those taxes in order to build more homes federally or on a state level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And to dive into that, people have to understand that the United States took in about 88 billion trillion dollars.
Trillion,
Trillion dollars.
trillion, America,
Um
trillions of dollars of taxes,
and
trillions.
it wasn't taxes, right?
Mm.
So what circulated in the United States was 88 trillion dollars, right?
Oh, I get you saying. My bad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about
So
20 trillion
but
taxes.
what the government took in from taxes was only 3 trillion.
I think it's like 20 trillion. I think it's like 20. It's like 18, 20 trillion, something like that.
Well, a huge portion of it went back out. So you're talking about 60-70% of everything went back outside of the country.
Right. It went outside the country. Yeah,
And
exactly.
and that's what people have to understand about tax implications and
Hmm.
all of these other things because as attorney was saying that I was listening to one time, he said tax laws were not created to to stop the wealthy. It was given them rules on how to get around the tax law.
Yes, exactly.
And when I heard it in that manner, I'm like, huh. And that's why when you're a W-2 worker, you have no leg to stand on because you
Yep.
have no law that actually protects you.
That actually protects you. And so, like, like when we're talking about taxes, it's very important to what we're talking about and why it's important to decide whether you're using a will or a trust, right? Or using a trust over a will. Because at the end of the day, if you're a regular thousandaire, it's easy to come after you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Than it is to go after these millionaires and billionaires
Mhm.
have who just they simply do not pay taxes, man. That's just what it is, man. Like I know there's a lot of propaganda around, about what they do pay in taxes. They do pay taxes. They don't pay a lot compared to the amount of money that they make, right? Compared to a regular thousandaire,
Mhm.
you pay you pay a lot more in taxes when you look at your percentage of income, and their percentage of income. You pay a lot more in taxes, man. That's
Yeah,
just what
yeah.
it is.
That's just like if someone made $1,000 and they had to pay 50% of that $1,000 to taxes, and you made 10,000, but you only, what I'm saying, you only paid 10%
Yeah,
of that 10,001 because the tax rate is extremely low, and then
Mm,
two is based off of ratio
yeah.
of how much money you actually have and so forth. But back to like the whole trust thing. Um, you know, the key things that I found really as a great tool is that picking the age of the children was huge to me,
Mhm.
that they can receive and start receiving the money.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and the reason why is going back to what we were talking about is making sure that they just don't start blowing the money, just just taking trips and you know not working and paying
Yeah.
paying their bills, because you still want your kids to be responsible, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you
Stop.
you want you want them to go. If they want a house, they need to be able to figure out the money on how to get their own house.
You don't wanna stunt in front of gram.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I'm
Like,
saying? Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and that was huge, man, because again, this is where we have to elevate our conversations with our kids as well about finances.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're getting into a territory that data is showing that that generation from I want to say is 30 on down, um, pretty much are buying luxury brands at a high clip, and you don't want your kids to start being that kind of consumer
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
and being locked in on brands, because that is how you will end up losing the wealth.
Losing wealth. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing man, trying to have a conversation with somebody about, like, because they're being indoctrinated to think that because they can consume, they have wealth.
Yes.
You because there's this idea out there, you'll hear it all the time. Black buying power, black buying power, black buying power is a myth. Is it what black buying power says is that you have the money to spend. You know what I'm saying? And it shows
Mhm,
because there's a film out there created in 1960 something talk about how to market to the Negro. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Because at the time, black people, to show that we weren't poor, we would buy name brand things. We buy name brand products. And so, Martin Luther King, he goes to Chicago, and he's trying to tell black people, like, hey, don't buy these name brand products, buy these other products, even though they might be inferior. Once you buy them enough, they'll become the same. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and that's a good point. Yeah, waiting until they 30, 40. Yeah, I think you have to, because because by that age, hopefully, I don't know. Uh, nowadays,
I don't,
nowadays,
I
you
don't
know,
know, bro. I don't
30,
know. We still got some 45-year-olds that still every weekend showing up at the club, bro. So I don't know, man.
yeah, yeah.
That's all they want to do is party.
A party, man. I like that young,
Yeah.
but I think that the average, yeah, that the average for 30, 40-year old should be good. Should be good, man. It's just it's just way too many. Like, dang, bro,
Yeah.
you 40-year-old showing up. Okay, I got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But back to you talk about like the it is like creating consumer. Like, people need to understand, like, if you're not talking to your child right now about consuming,
Mhm,
they are constantly bombarded with um information to for them to consume. you
mhm,
know we've seen this in young children with Roblox or
mhm,
Minecraft. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I need to buy this, I need to buy, I need to buy, I need to buy, I need to buy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fine to buy, but you know what I'm saying, just be reasonable with what you purchase. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Which is why Sheen and these other things are interrupting the market of fashion, because it's cheap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you just have to, we do have to, have conversations around buying brands and what that means and how much it costs. You know what I'm saying? This is this like how Cadillac marketed to black people
Yes.
because they knew that that black people would buy the brand because it was simply Cadillac. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. You know what I'm saying? And that's
It
how
was the first brand that marketed to black people.
Yep, it was the first brand that marketed to black people. Yep, exactly. And so people so black people started buying that brand, you know what I'm saying?
And they
Um
took the page out of Coca-Cola.
mhm.
Yeah, no, or was it Coca-Cola or Pepsi? I think it was Coca-Cola.
I think it was Coca-Cola, yeah. I think it was
Yeah,
Coca.
yeah. And it's the reason why black people choose Coca-Cola over Pepsi, blah, blah, blah.
Uh,
Yeah. But
yeah.
long that's a
But
whole different story. So
yeah. But consumption is, I mean, like, but when you have a trust, you also, it's what we're talking about. You have to have other conversations with your children that they can pass on. Like, hey, man, like, look, man, I get it, man. Part of social media is to show, that you're popping bottles and doing all this other
mhm,
crazy, and spending money. Like, there's nothing wrong with going and having fun and living life, but
yeah,
do it within bounds. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Do it within bounds, within your means, you know what I'm saying? And spend money, responsibly. Because, we're going to be in this inflation, especially now, we're going to be in this inflation thing for the next 5 years. So at least for the next 5 years. So things are going to be still expensive, and they're expensive because Americans are still buying things that they do not need. You know what I'm saying? And by need, I mean food, clothing, and water. And so, that's why, there's too much money in the ecosystem right now. And also, we're still dealing with supply chain issues because we depend on exports and we do not. Um, I'm sorry, we depend on imports. We do not export
mhm,
as much as we do not import as. I'm sorry, we do not
mm,
export as much
mm,
as we import. I always get them mixed up,
yeah,
and that's part of the problem too. You know what I'm saying? So we have to build more within this country and things of that nature. And part of that is building more homes. But anyway, that's
which
just a
which
whole
which
context
is
and
yeah,
everything.
which is also now being addressed right now because we're setting up alliances in South America, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. Hmm.
and in Mexico and so forth. So the Americans alignment
Hmm.
is starting to happen to correct that. And
Right.
yes, we're not getting off the trail. What people have to understand, like these are the nuances that go into what we need to think about as we plan, as we think, as we start understanding what's happening in the world when you're talking about finances, setting up wills, setting up trusts, and setting up your future for um so they
Hmm.
can have.
Yeah. And I think that one important thing about the difference between wills and trusts is that you have to think about inflation. So if you have a will and you just want to pass on money that you have from life insurance, well, you have to think about inflation. Whereas I think with
Mhm.
trusts take care of life of inflation. You know
Be
what I'm saying?
because
Yeah.
there is a uh, uh,
Yes.
interest base to the trust.
Yeah.
So, listening to, because the missus turned me on to, I don't wanna say turned me on to Jill Scott, uh, podcast, but,
Hey,
you know,
man.
look
Jilly from Philly. She bad.
yeah, I ain't gonna lie, some of their, material is really
Mm-hmm.
good, but this particular one where they were talking about estates, I'm telling you, is one of the best podcasts I have ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the lady she had on there was breaking it all the way down. It was a great podcast. And people, and she was pointing out the fact that trust doubles every 10 years. The
Mm-hmm.
value of a trust doubles every 10 years. So when you think about that, and you think about if you got, you know, a whatever $1 million trust or whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
that in 10 years is two. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not even counting if you're trying to also build in the process,
Mhm.
and again, you can't establish that in a will, and and you have to think about that as we are making the decisions. This is not to deter one way or another, but to understand the chips on the table, you should really talk to an estate planner.
Mm.
Talk to an estate planner. See, hey, these are my assets. This is the structure of my life, and this is this is how I operate as of now.
Mm.
What is the best direction should I go as far as setting up a trust or a will? What's the best for me? And they'll
Yeah.
lay it out for you,
Oh.
because you can have a simple trust,
Mm.
but again, it's still the tax implications. Do you want to have a will and then your kids have to pay the taxes?
Right. Yeah,
Or
exactly.
do you want to have a trust and they get paid out from the trust
Right.
without the tax implications?
Right. We need to share that to the group. I think some maybe assistant love just shared it
Oh,
in the group, but we need to share that to our page, man. Get folk, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Get
yeah, because it's
right.
really good information, man. And this is from a actual estate planner. And
Yeah,
and you know,
yeah.
and she also pointed out in the what's name that again as in the black culture, man, we got a real thing. Man, I'm not even gonna just put that on us, man. Look, in the world, we have a real thing as of right now with the you know anti-intellectualism and all this other stuff, where if you're getting information from people that went to school for that information, or people that are taking their time out of their day and spending time to learn the
Learn it,
information, I mean hours of learning this information, if you only took 5 minutes to look it up, or you seen it on a meme, you should not be speaking about the subject.
bro. That's facts,
You can
man.
have your opinion, but you need to understand where that line is. It just the truth, and we all got to understand that. I have to understand it, and so on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, that's facts, man. Like that is just facts. It is an American thing. It is. I'm telling you, it is strictly an American thing to where we've been indoctrinated to be anti-intellectual. You know what I'm saying? Because a part of that is that there is a power structure who is bent on creating the haves and have nots,
Mhm.
right? That's really what it is. And they don't really want people to learn how they make money. They
Yeah.
they really don't. They don't want people to participate, in making money because they believe in this pie theory that if a lot of people participate in it, then there won't be enough money. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
Problem is that there are just too few people who have too much money.
Yes. Yes.
And so, you have to, you know so yeah, man, you gotta go out there and find these things, man, because, I didn't know about estate planning. I had no idea or any reason to research it or know about it until, I had a conversation with you,
Mhm.
and of course, sis-in-law, of course, shared it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, well, I need to go research this and see what's going on, man. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people you know, are in that, man. People who work a regular 9 to 5 and renting, and they don't understand that. Yeah, even though you're renting, you even though you think you might not have much, you probably need to be looking into a trust as well. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, there is a threshold when you're talking about if you don't have a lot of money and so forth, that yes,
Mhm.
you're weighing out that, oh, why would I spend X $1,000 to get a trust when I
Mhm.
really don't even have $1,000 in my bank account,
Bank
right?
account. Yeah. Mhm.
Um, there is no tax implication for that person, even if they establish a will, because there's a bottom threshold that you would
Mm,
have to meet to even enter into the conversation of paying taxes.
mm,
Um, so you know, it's all of these things that we really have to understand. But again, like this comes from like, man, we had to dive into this information.
mhm.
And the arena that we are in with our business, because of the people that we end up in conversation with a lot of time, we like, man, how are they doing this? Oh well, man, what's happening? And like our realtor that we had, he was just like, oh yeah, they got to trust, and this is how they operate and through the trust and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, what the hell is the goddamn trust?
Yeah,
So and he was kind of spoon feeding us a little information and so forth, and like we man, when he told us this, we just been diving in and diving in, and then all of a sudden we said, yep, this is what we need to do.
yeah,
and
yeah,
and 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 again, um we just want to make sure that our kids are established to where we don't know if they're going to be able to afford college, right?
yeah.
um
Mm,
we don't know if they're going to be able to afford to even buy a home in the
right.
next 10 years.
Mhm.
um but again, if you tie that into the environment of what we see of what's happening, this goes into what you were saying, that it is people out here that are creating those walls because they can no longer use race, they can no longer use those things to stop you from getting to this place of knowing the information of how a trust works. Yeah, yeah, man.
Exactly. Exactly. They can't. So they gotta find some other mechanism in some other ways, you know what I'm saying? And a
Yeah,
lot of it is creating distrust in the system. That's really
yeah,
what they want to do. Same thing they did with black people back in the the 1800s to about 1930 or 1940, you know what I mean? Again, black people bought insurance. They bought
yeah,
life insurance. It
yes,
just they were just taken advantage of, you know what
yeah,
I mean, paying high premium rates and having low returns or no return at all.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Black
Tulsa,
people had
Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, they was not allowed to collect on the insurance.
yes, sir. They were not those black businesses were not allowed to collect on insurance.
And
No,
people, again, like you said, it was people that had trust, it was people that had insurance, it was people that were covered.
that had
And
wills.
yeah,
Mm,
and it was gone in a
yeah.
blink.
Yeah. And the environment today that we live in that, like you're saying, you can't use race anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You can't just discriminate based on race anymore because people are going to call you out, on social media and things of
Yeah,
that nature. Trying to prevent
yeah,
them, trying to
yeah.
prevent
So you
from,
use disinformation.
yeah, use different
You know what I'm saying?
disinformation.
You
Hmm.
use disinformation. You use the fact of like I like to say the Oprah Winfrey Michael Jordan theory,
Hmm.
and basically you you prop up a rich black person,
Hmm.
um and an adversary of the poor person,
Hmm.
um when the hurdles were totally different because of the path that was traveled,
Hmm.
where yeah, you can discriminate easily on a 9 to 5 worker compared to a basketball star that's just entertaining someone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like these are the things that stop us from getting to certain levels. And now that the information is out there, that we can learn about trust, we can learn about how to operate, how to structure a will with and all of these different things,
Hmm.
thanks to technology, um that we now have to put those tools to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the misinformation pieces is that so the Biden administration passed legislation for more tax lawyers, basically. You know what I mean? So they passed a law which created more tax lawyers. So people put out information like, Biden put out these tax lawyers to come after you, Mr. and Mrs. Thousandaire. No, he hired more tax lawyers so those tax lawyers can so you have a bigger pool of tax lawyers who can go after the millionaires and billionaires. And so what the opposition put out there so that people can be like, yeah, we don't want them tax lawyers. Well, okay, if the tax lawyers don't go from 50,000 to 80,000, right?
Mhm.
Well, then those 50,000 don't have enough resources or manpower, to go after the folks who are actually skirting, going around the tax laws in order to not pay taxes. They're just going to spend their time going after the regular thousandaire. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? For you to
Because
pay taxes. So again, there's misinformation and disinformation
yeah.
so that you can be on the side of the millionaires and the billionaires who really need to be paying more taxes.
Mhm.
That's where we're at today. Like, not to, and this isn't a political podcast today, but the if the Republicans get in control, guess what they already put out. Rick Scott already put it out. They're gonna further cut
Yeah.
taxes for the
Yeah.
wealthy, man. Like,
Yeah.
like if you think you ain't gonna pay more, like, bro, man, it's gonna be bad. Ooh, it's gonna
Well
create a having to have
well,
it.
again, you it the point that you were saying about this isn't political, I'm gonna refer to our podcasts before.
Mhm.
Everything is political once you
That's
walk
true.
out of this door.
That's
You know
true.
what I'm saying?
That is
Every
man.
everything is
Yeah,
political.
yeah. Mhm.
And you gotta understand those kind of things. And again, the implications that you're talking about is to again saddle the working class with more debt.
And to
That
not allow you to pass on wealth.
so yes,
It doesn't allow you to
yes.
pass on.
It doesn't allow you to pass on wealth. And again, trying to set up a transfer of wealth
Right.
and not bottom down, back up.
Mm.
So you got to understand how these tools are structured and you got to protect them. Again, wills and trusts, put that in place. Trust will protect your assets a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, that's just where what we were told, and after walking through with our estate planner, um, it is a really good move, a good strategy to
Mm.
circumvent a lot of those things.
Mm. Yeah, that's good, bro. All right, man. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up, man. Yeah, it's been pretty good, man. A lot of good
Yeah,
information. Share, man. Appreciate you, bro. Last words, man.
man. Last words, man. Plan.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, man. And my last words is that we're a small platform, but um, but it can take a small number to reach many. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get beyond talking about other things. You know what I'm saying? Especially as we get older. You know what I'm saying? We have to talk about what it means when you are not here. You know what I mean? For your family, don't be afraid to talk about those things. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, death is inevitable. You know what I'm saying? You aren't going to live forever. Nobody lives forever. You
Hmm.
know, so have your family prepared. Learn, getting get an estate planner, find an estate planner, talk to an estate planner about, what it is that you have set up, man, and plan. Have a plan, you know, let your kids know where you let your kids or loved one know where your will is, you know what I mean? What's the password to your computer? Oh man, I don't mean to make this longer, but 'cause I remember when mom passed away,
Hmm.
she had about, I don't know, like $4,000 in the bank account, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And the bank wasn't gonna let us have any access to that without our death certificate, right? And mom wrote down everything, and so
Mhm,
I found out her password and was able to pull that money out. Now, me without having that information, the bank
mhm.
locked it down. They would have taken that $4,000.
Yeah.
Gone, right? Gone, you know what I'm saying? So, we just use that to, to divide it amongst ourselves, you know what I'm saying? But that's how these entities operate, man. If you don't have a plan for it, they just gonna take it. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
look, and sorry to cut you off, man, but look up unclaimed, money
Mhm.
and properties per state.
Yeah, yeah, you can
And
look that up by
yeah,
state.
and they
Mhm.
I think they have a time limit of, you know, if X years go past, the state keeps that money.
Yeah.
And
Money.
this is why you don't want it to go through probate,
Yeah,
because they're really not equipped to find all of your assets. They're
yeah.
not.
They
You
don't want
know,
to.
they don't want to,
Yeah. Uh-uh.
you know?
No.
Um, and this is what you have to understand, in the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, man. All right, man. With that, man, hope thank you guys for tuning. Thank you guys that tuned in. Thank you folks that's going to tune in. As soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna download this junk and turn it into a podcast, and and share it out. And appreciate you guys. Tomorrow's NFL season, so go birds. Let's
Go
go get this.
birds.
Go birds. All right, man. We up out of here, man. Any other last words, bro?
Yeah, I'm saying podcast, man. Like and share, comment. Thank you for everybody. But stay focused. Understand why your ancestors put up a fight for us to get here. Let's utilize our freedom in the most constructive way.
Yes, sir. And with that, we out.